Mads, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Sounds like an exciting day.
So let's start off the show and quickly get into it. Mads, what is outsourcing and delegation all about? And let's define both.
Effectiveness. So outsourcing in itself is really about taking something that your company is not experts in and getting someone else to do it, right? So outsourcing is really about taking a piece of work or generally a work process that you don't feel the company is strong at and getting other people to complete that on your behalf, right? So the people will still be working closely with you, but they don't necessarily work for your company as such. And if we take that one, in terms of definition, that's how I define it. Some examples of outsourcing would be a lot of companies live in a physical building. Now, very likely the building maintenance is outsourced. So they're in a situation where they have an office building, but they don't want to put in new light bulbs, or they don't want to change something if there's a problem with electricity and so on, right? So they actually have a company or a partner that actually helps manage the buildings. So that's an example of outsourcing. Delegation is similar, but it's generally considered within your own organization. So delegation is basically taking some work that you have or taking some tasks that you have and delegating that to other people within your organization. And generally that's done to make sure that you get the most out of your time, right? We all only have 24 hours a day, and most of us work around 8 hours a day. And if that's you, then the key thing for your company's best well-being is for you to do the most effective 8 hours of work that you can. And delegation is really making sure that all the simple stuff is giving away to other people so that you have more time to do the stuff that really matters.
Absolutely, Mads. Yeah, great points. And with outsourcing, it can happen in a lot of different ways on different levels. So let's give viewers just a few examples of companies, actual companies that outsource. So let's name one that you worked for in the past, IBM. Now, what does IBM, like they're obviously a giant, big corporation all over the world. Just name a few things or at least one thing, one task or job that they outsource.
Yeah, so one example was, for example, building maintenance, right? Um, and I think at a larger scale, really, it's about looking at companies outsource to each other all the time, right? So for most of our customers, they tend to outsource bookkeeping or accounting, right? Which is very, very common. Now, most people consider that as very standard because that's just a habit that most companies have. But outsourcing bookkeeping is just exactly the same as outsourcing any other task, right? It's taking something where it makes a lot more sense to have someone that's specialized in that to actually do it on behalf of your company so that you don't actually have to specialize in it, right? Because as a company owner, you don't necessarily want to be an expert on accounting and marketing and sales and operations. And I mean, you can't do everything, right? So
That's right.
that's really where it's come from.
Yeah, and I want to talk about how outsourcing affects the local and global economy. Now, outsourcing has this stigma, or it's kind of one of those words that some people really do understand how it works, and then there are a lot of people out there that don't understand really what outsourcing is about, and they might have the idea that it's about corporations being greedy and trying to get richer than they already are with their billions of dollars. I mean, I've heard all kinds of excuses or explanations from people that don't really know. I mean, they just don't understand what outsourcing means. So when we talk about affecting the global economy, I like to bring this up sometimes with people, and it's kind of laughable and you might think it's a joke, but really it's the truth. If we didn't have a global economy and companies don't outsource, I mean, how would we have our iPads or technology? I mean, we have companies in Silicon Valley that are they're creating, patenting and creating devices like the iPhone. But where are they actually making the iPhone? They're taking that and outsourcing it to another company perhaps in Asia, China, Malaysia, Philippines, wherever it might be, you know? And so what people have to understand when it comes to outsourcing, most businesses outsource on one level or another. So we're talking about going out there and actually getting our products developed, right? And then actually having them created, or what I mean by development is actually, the development life cycle, and then getting them created physically if it is a physical product. And usually that's outsourced, and that's just the way it is. So if you pick up your, let's say, your anything right now, any device, it's going to most likely be manufactured and created physically in some faraway land and away from, America and Canada and North America. So when it comes to outsourcing, it's not necessarily about becoming more rich, right? And so, Mads, let me ask you, how is outsourcing affecting the local economy, for example, in the U.S.?
Yeah, well, I think just a point more to what you're adding. I mean, people have outsourced, I was about to say, since the beginning of time, right? When you look at, like, if you look back 30 years, right? The coffee still came from Africa and South America and so on, right? Now, yes, it could have perhaps been grown in the US, but if you had to pay $100 for a pack of coffee, right? Very few people would be drinking coffee. The same with clothing, right? A lot of the materials for clothing. If you had to pay $100 for a very simple T-shirt, you probably won't be buying a lot of T-shirts, right? So
Yes,
the
that's right.
benefit of the world economy and outsourcing is really about that. It's about producing things that are competitive within the current market, right? And yeah, some things, particularly high level technology, is better off being produced locally. But a lot of things, I mean, either it would be so expensive that people wouldn't buy it, or else it just wouldn't be worthwhile to actually produce it locally, right? So
That's right.
for example, I mean, if you had a iPad produced in the US, right? If you say that the cost of that would be 3 times what they're paying in China. Now, if you had to pay 3 times the amount of money for an iPad, again, a lot less people would be getting one, right? So
Yes.
it's all about competitiveness at a local scale, but at a global level, it's also about actually creating affordable products and actually working within a global economy, right? And
Yes,
it have been
absolutely.
for a long, long time. So, I mean, if we look at many companies and where people tend to be a bit hostile against outsourcing, tend to be when they see the actual jobs moving abroad. So as one example of that would be customer service, right? So a lot of people in the US, a lot of companies have outsourced customer service to the likes of India or the Philippines or something. Now, in that case, right, what happens with the company is, yes, they pay less money to hire people in Philippines or whichever, but that money is generally reinvested into other things, right? So they can, for
Absolutely.
example, afford to hire more salespeople in the US because they suddenly have a bigger profit, right? They can,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah,
can,
this is,
yeah,
yeah.
they can invest more money into research and development, right? So again,
Which puts more boots into the office, exactly, or into the company. This is a point that I was actually going to bring up, Mads, is the fact that a lot of people say, well, it's taking jobs away from Americans or Canadians or wherever it might be, even in Europe. Now, the fact is, you just brought it up, is that, you might take away a few call center jobs, but again, like you said, it might produce 10, 20, 30, or 100 sales jobs because now they've saved and put away budget for sales. And then as they have more salespeople, of course the company is going to grow as long as the company has what it takes, right, to actually develop into a sustainable business later on as it grows. Then you hire more people, and it's just so that's another thing that I hear a lot is, and you hear it all over online and sometimes in the news, is that, oh, it's taking jobs away from Americans. Yes, sometimes people do lose their jobs, and of course it's unfortunate, but the cycle does bring jobs back into the U.S.
and most important, it's generally more interesting jobs, right? Because what tend
Yes.
to happen is it's the most simple and it's the lowest It's the jobs with the lowest qualifications that get outsourced, right? And the
Yes,
jobs that's then coming in instead, for example, research development and stuff like that, tend to be
yeah,
for a higher level education, right? And and
absolutely.
and in the Western world, that's the only way we can compete. I mean, if US think it's going to be great again by starting producing coffee in the US, or by doing a lot more farming or something, right? It's not going to happen. Like, the only thing that can happen is no one pay for it, right? Because no one's going to pay like 5 times as much for a steak just because it's made in the US, right? Or at least
Yes.
very few people, right? So the point is, where the Western world want to go is to do these more technological jobs. It's to do these jobs that have higher requirement, right? Because in the
Yes.
Western world, the key thing is we have a great way of utilizing our intelligence in general, right? That's very competitive when you look around the world, right? I mean, I've spent a lot of time here in Asia, and people are very, if you don't give them specific instructions, for example, it's sometimes difficult for them to follow. Whereas when you
Yes.
look at developing new high quality products and so on, that's significantly easier in the Western world, and that's the jobs that we want to have there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Now, let's also talk about when, outsourcing is related to the word cheap or cost effective. Now, cheap is a dirty word and it should never be used, especially in sales, but people look at outsourcing as a cheap alternative. What do you have to say about, the fact that some people find it just to be a cheap alternative and, they want to take their jobs, the lower end jobs, let's say that you're talking about, and say, well, let's just outsource them to another country and, get two people for the price of one because it's cheap, right?
But
What do you have to say to that?
yeah, but I think that plays a big role, right? I mean, the point is, if a job can be done just as well by someone getting paid a lot less, that's money the company can invest somewhere else. So yeah, it is more cost effective, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if you look at it on an overall scale, the companies do it because, well, first of all, the competitors do it, right? So if you want to be competitive, again, if you charge 5 times the amount of money for your product as your competitor, and it's exactly the same product, you're likely going to have a tough time, right? So it is more cost effective, and it helps you, it enables your company to deliver more cost effective products, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but again, it goes back into what we just discussed already. The key thing is, if you do outsourcing, again, you can afford to, one, deliver either products at a lower cost, or you can do more research, more development, more product development, and so on, and bring more and better products to the market, right? So it is a cheaper solution, but the way I tend to look at it is really look at the fact that if you can get the same quality at a much lower cost, people do it. It's even the same within the US, right? If you can hire someone in New York at $30 an hour, and you can hire someone in Kansas at $10 an hour, right, to do the exact same job. If the people are equally qualified, and if the jobs are very simple, that they can be done at a similar level, but at a much lower cost, companies are going to do it, right?
And companies do that all the time in different areas of business. And I've seen some call centers that, or businesses that outsource their call center, somewhere in a different state
Yeah.
within the United States. They don't even take it outside of the U.S., right? So they're saving those jobs, but they're taking it to another state because they might pay a few cents or a few dollars less as
Yeah.
it's fact. All right. Good points, Mads. So we're going to be talking more about outsourcing and, all things outsourcing in all of our episodes coming up. But now it's time to take a quick break and talk about two actionable items. That's right, two actionable items. Every episode going forward, including this one, we're going to be talking about two actionable items that you can actually do right now to create or make your business stronger, bigger, better. And then we're also going to be talking about a tool in every episode that will help you in your business. All right, so let's talk about number one. This actionable item is for anyone that might be watching this and thinking, you know what, I want to create a business. And I want to perhaps leave my 9 to 5, or maybe you don't want to leave your 9 to 5, but you want an extra income. All right, well, I'm here to tell you, and Mads will testify, that it's actually a lot simpler than a lot of people make it out to be. Now, I myself, when I started with business years back, I hired a coach, and I've talked to many professionals, and I've paid a lot of money. I'm talking thousands upon thousands of dollars for coaching, and I'm going to give you a few action steps right now for absolutely free that can propel you to actually having your own business within the next few weeks and even the next few days if you have time. So, number one, you have to have a skill set. So your skill set could be plumbing. It could be screwing light bulbs in. It doesn't matter. As long as you have some kind of skill set, people are looking for it. Am I right, Mads?
Yep. Yeah, skill set
Good.
or experience, right? So, I mean,
Yes.
wherever it's a specific skill, or if you have experience in a certain field, there's generally people looking for it, yes.
So this is how you can start a business in 2016 and beyond, okay? Number one, you want to create a website. And now, where do we go and create a website? Well, okay, for instance, you've got shops in North America, US, for example, that are charging $2, $3, $4,000 sometimes for just a few pages for a website. I'm not discounting them. I do not want web developers seeing this and coming to me and saying, hey, how dare you say stuff like that? No, what I'm saying is if you're on a low budget, okay, you can outsource 1 page or 2 pages of a website for your new business to a place like India, Philippines. There are many countries in Europe that will take you on. And I swear to you, you can do this for just a few $100. Am I right, Mads?
Yep. And I think a lot of people in the beginning especially, they always look for this huge website and all these features and stuff like that, right?
Nonsense. You don't need it. No.
Yeah.
What you need is you need to have a call to action. You need an opt-in. You just need to simply tell people on your website who you are, how you can help them, and where to contact you, and that's it. A one-pager. And we'll get into that. We'll actually talk about that in another episode. Please remind me, Mads, of how to create an effective website and a web page as a landing page for a small business. Next, let's talk about professionalism as a business owner, okay? Mads and I are here to tell you that we do not appreciate getting, I'm not going to say we don't appreciate it, but we shun upon emails that come to us where it's got the business name and then at gmail.com. I'm here to tell you, if you want to do business, do not do that. Do not use an email address that has your business name at yahoo.com or whatever it is. You want to be professional. Once you've got your website set up, you've got your domain, xyz.com, you'll want to use preferably your first name as the business owner, like Jozsef at xyz.com. Make sure you're always using the domain name for your email that you're going to be using. Am I right, Mads?
Yes, I mean, I lived in the UK for many years, and the amount of small vans I would see drive by that said, oh, email us at jimboninja at hotmail.com, right?
It's not very professional,
It
no.
doesn't send a professional. Some people probably don't care, but in general, it's about showing people that you're a professional, right? And
Exactly.
I mean, when you already buy a domain and a website, there's no additional cost to getting the email set up in most cases, right? So
Exactly.
it's a very simple, but it's a move that makes a difference.
Yes. Number three, if we want to count down, number three is basically creating social media accounts. So you've got your website, you've got your email set up, you create your social media accounts. Now, where do you set up your social media accounts? It really depends on what kind of business you're in. If you're selling something like books or recipe books and you have a website that talk about food, for example, you're a food blogger, you want to talk about food, anything to do with food, you'll want to be on places like social platforms like Pinterest and Instagram, because that's where you're going to be showing off a lot of the pictures and all the cool stuff that you want to talk about, and then you'll have, call to actions to bring them to your website or your landing page. But if you're a service, I can tell you right now, the only social media platforms that you need to be on from our experience, and this is just from Mads and I, are number one, LinkedIn, and we'll go over LinkedIn in a different episode, and how to utilize LinkedIn and how to utilize it from your own personal page. And you'll want to be on Facebook because everybody seems to be on Facebook. And on Facebook, you can do targeted ads, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the two platforms that I highly recommend. Yes, there's Twitter and other ones, but LinkedIn and Facebook are where you're going to want to be. And on Facebook, you're not using your personal page. Jozsef Kiss, talks about his business, which is fine, but you want to have an actual page for your business. Then is lead generation and creating those and taking those leads and creating sales. So we'll actually cover that in other episodes, but really what you want to do is you want to create some sort of sales funnel where you're reaching out to people. And again, where am I hinting to? LinkedIn and Facebook, okay, as a service or product provider. Lead generation. All right, so Mads now will take on the second actionable item, which is?
Lead generation.
All right, go for it, Mads.
So as you said, one of the key things, in particular in small businesses, but for most of the businesses we work with and most of our clients, is around lead generation, right? Now, there is so many different ways to look for leads and look for potential customers today. And just to give you a few examples, you have cold calling, you have cold emailing, you have social media, you have creating lead capture pages, and there's a lot of ways you can get hold of customers.
Absolutely.
Now, what I see businesses do a lot is jump around a lot between all of these solutions, right? And very often when I ask them what works, they don't know. So a couple of key recommendations for me is whenever you start with something new, whenever you do a new kind of lead generation, so let's say you start doing cold calling, so you find a list of phone numbers for people with the type of businesses you want to deal with, and you start dialing one at a time through the list. Right? You want to track the numbers, so you want to see how many calls do you do in a day, how many people do you actually, how many decision makers do you actually get to talk to, and how many do you, for example, get a follow-up call or a follow-up meeting with, and effectively how many turn into clients. Right? And that it doesn't really matter what strategy you use, but that's generally information that's very useful, right? Because that will help you understand what it would take to scale. So if you need to do 10 phone calls to get a meeting, and you know that 1 out of 3 meetings you make a sale, you know that you need to do 30 phone calls to make a sale. And then it's very easy to calculate and say, well, okay, I can do 120 phone calls a day. That means I can generate roughly 4 sales a day. Right?
Absolutely. So you're talking metrics, and it's very important for people to keep track of their metrics at all times, especially in their sales environment. Absolutely, so that they can see what they have done, what may have worked, what's not working, and adjust appropriately.
Yeah, where I see so many people fail is they start doing all these things, but they have no idea what's working, right? You really want to track the numbers because you want to have a good understanding of what works and what doesn't. So people often start doing some cold calling, they send some emails, they do some stuff on social, they maybe create a lead capture page, but they don't actually have a good overview of what works, right?
Because they're trying so many different things, and when one thing may work, they might get 1 or 2 leads. What happens is they've got so many things going on that they're not focusing in on one. And that's why I always tend to tell people nowadays, even with social media, like social media obviously is huge. It's a way to get your brand out there, to all over the world, talk to people, brand yourself, etc., and get people coming to you. But really, you don't want to be focusing on all social media because not all the people in your target audience are going to be there.
Yep.
So again, you can test it and go and say, hey, I'm on 8 or 10 different social media platforms, but Mads, you and I have been working together for quite a while now. We know as a fact for our business, we tend to do things on just a few very simple platforms where we generate our leads.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the key thing with the testing and the numbers, right? So again, you don't like social. You don't want to pick that as one number, right? So if you're doing an effort on Pinterest, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, right? You really want to know what leads are coming from where, right? You might think you get a ton of traffic or a ton of leads from social, but if you look at the numbers, very likely 80% of them is coming from one channel, right? And you much rather want to spend twice the amount on that channel that you know works than spending the full amount of time working 4 different channels, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where knowing your numbers and tracking your numbers becomes so critically important. Now, the one
Yes.
other thing that I see happen very frequently is people do stuff that work and then they stop. Because what happens is people are very interested in trying new things all the time. So for example,
Absolutely.
if they've learned that Facebook can generate them leads, they're like, well, that's great. Now let me try LinkedIn. Now let me try doing lead capture pages. Now let me do cold calls, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
they actually end up letting go of the things that work. So my
Yes.
recommendation and the key way I tend to work with our clients is when we find a funnel that works, you build a very specific framework and you have a very clear expectation on what happens every single day. So if you know, for example, that you're going posting in 5 Facebook groups every single day about your products or about your business, about your passion or whatever. If you know that generate X amount of leads, you want to build a process that says do that every single day. And you want
Absolutely.
to make
Yes.
sure that happens consistently, right? Now you can
Yes.
then, on top of that, you can then start looking at other funnels, right? And again, this is where outsourcing and delegation is great because when you know what works, when you have identified a channel that works, you can get someone else to do it, right? So if you know doing a certain thing, reaching out, sending a certain mail to X amount of people or people in certain industry, if you know that works and bring you in leads, you can give that, you can hand that and delegate that off to other people that can do that on your behalf. So, but you want to make sure it continues, right? Because it works. And as long as you pay people you're delegating it to less than the income you get from those leads, then it's great business. And then you can start looking at a new lead funnel and saying, well, now we know email marketing is working. Can I also get benefit out of cold calling? Can I get benefit out of social, etc.?
Yep, good points, Matt. Very good points. All right, so let's move from there and let's quickly move to our next section where we talk about one tool that will help you in your business now, today, tomorrow, and every day. So the tool we're going to be talking about in this episode is one of my favorites. It is called Evernote, and you can find that at evernote.com. What it is it does everything except your laundry. Haha. So what Evernote for me, what I personally love from this tool is the fact that it syncs with all of my devices, phones, tablets, laptop, PC, wherever you install Evernote. Now, what I use it for is strictly this. I use it for note-taking. I can take pictures, which I can, upload into Evernote that might have to do with something, business-wise. I could set reminders. It's just a productivity tool that works. And many, many other entrepreneurs and business owners that I've talked to do use Evernote. I mean, there's so many different tools, but Evernote seems to be the one that everybody gravitates to. It's very simple to use. You can create new notes. You can create reminders on those notes. You can create folders that are all accessed in the left pane, so you've got it all there for you. It's kind of like Windows Explorer, so you've got all the different folders there. I mean, it's just very slick. And then if you have Microsoft Outlook as your email client, you can have Evernote as a button so that when you get an email, you can click the Evernote button and boom, it actually creates a new note from that email into your Evernote. So what that really helps with is, well, let's create a reminder in Evernote maybe to call this person back. Maybe you want to email and follow up with them, whatever it might be. So I personally use Evernote on the simplistic scale because Evernote has a lot of different cool features. So you've got the free version, and then, excuse me, you've got a lot of different If you pay for it, it's only about $4 a month, and it gives you all these extra bells and whistles. But as a startup or any kind of business owner, really, you only need the free version. I use the paid version. Mads uses the paid version. But if you can get away with the free version to create reminders, notes, etc., it's good. What about you, Mads? How are you using Evernote these days?
Yeah, I'm about the same as you. I mean, I love taking notes, and it's because it's synced with all my devices. If I'm suddenly somewhere, I can grab out my phone, I can put in a note, and automatically when I get back into my computer, it's automatically synchronized and so on. So I actually have my personal assistant go through and sort out my Evernote, which makes it even simpler. I mean, I track everything, even simple things that I have to do at home. So if it's like buy
Groceries,
buy groceries or
whatever.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
add it all in there because it means that I have everything in one place and I don't need to run around with it in my head, so I can focus my energy and my focus on running my business.
Let me add to that, Mads, that within Evernote, or sorry, if you use Google Chrome, I don't know about the other browsers, but in Google Chrome, it actually has an extension for Evernote. And what you can do is any web page that you find, you right click, and you have the ability to clip manually a part of the screen or the entire web page, and it immediately syncs into your Evernote. As long as Evernote's running, boom, it goes right into your Evernote. So if you want to look back at something later on because this article was cool, maybe you want to curate it or you want to contact the person who wrote it, whatever, it doesn't matter what the reason is. Boom, it goes into Evernote, create a reminder for a date,
Yep.
time, etc. It's very, very, very cool. I mean, I see all kinds of cool stuff all the time. Like for instance, today, our graphics person on staff, what did I do, Mads? I sent over a clipping of a graphic that I want that we need to have made for something cool that we're working on our website. And 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 how else to do that? Clip it, put it into Evernote, save it, for a later time, and there you go. And it's very true. If you have an assistant, if you have the opportunity to work with assistants, there you go. They can go in and, like Matt said, they can organize it. Because what happens with Evernote is, unless you're putting them always into the appropriate folder, it just adds up like a
Yep.
nice long list of things to
A
do
bit
and
like your email
clippings.
box.
Exactly, and we'll get into how to deal with the email inbox later on. Okay, so that's it, guys, and that's it for today and this episode number 2. We've covered a lot. We've talked about what outsourcing is, how it affects the local economy. We also talked about 2 action items. The first one is how to start a business in 2016 and beyond with a skill set, and most people today have a skill set, so please remember that. And we also talked about lead generation, and we're actually going to get a lot more in depth with lead generation in future episodes. So look forward to that. We'll have some cool panel discussions with guests that will come on. And in a very, very short interview coming up on one of our very next episodes, we will actually have one of our staff from our company, Somebody to Hire, talk with Mads and I on camera about what it's like to work with foreign people as a virtual or personal assistant. So look forward to that.